What I have here is the finest AR-15 I have ever used. What is this rifle? Well, it also happens to be one of the most expensive rifles I've ever used. This is the Radian Mod 1. The Radian Mod 1 is what I would like to say, you know, no doubt somebody's gonna cry about it, okay? But what I would like to say is arguably the pinnacle of AR-15 rifles. The standard direct impingement AR can really only go so far. So what do you have to do to make it a little bit different than the next guy? Well, that's essentially what Radian has done. This is different than every single AR-15 out there, and a couple features that we'll go through. I have time with the X2 Dev AR-15. I have time with an ADM. Let's say pick a full Ambi gun. I've used it and I've shot it. So I have some real world data to back that up to say that like I've used these other guns, and this thing right here is very, very impressive. With all of that stuff being said though, if you're new to the channel, to help us out, like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe. When you subscribe and you share the video, it really drives traffic. It helps us grow our channel, and it helps us produce videos that you want to see. With all that also being said, you want to help us out a little bit more? Go down in the description, go to the comment section. You're going to see a link to our website. The link to the website will help you find everything you see in the video. So with all of that being said though, what makes the Radian Mod 1 special? Let's start with one of the most important things. We're not going to necessarily say QC process. Of course, Sun Silvery Gunworks, you know, is well known for that. But I think Radian takes it one step further. The Radian Mod 1 rifle is built by one singular gunsmith who checks off and does an entire checklist when he builds the rifle and then signs off on it. Where do you see that other than, you know, let's say high-end 1911s? You don't see that anywhere else across the AR market. So these guns are not high production rifles. They're not churning out 4,000 of them in an hour like a PSA where, you know, 399 of them are bad. Okay, this is the opposite of that. And on top of all of that stuff, what you usually see is you get a manufacturer who makes a high-end rifle coming in at a price point of $3,100 that these are. They make a high-end rifle, well then they use other manufacturers' parts to make that high-end rifle. Versus this rifle, every single part on this gun, with the exception of the grip and the buttstock, is made by Radian. That includes the barrel, that includes the three-prong muzzle device, you know, the tube, the rail, obviously the safety, because Radian's well known for that. This does have the Radian Raptor SD charging handle on it. The SD has the notches or the little like holes in it essentially to relieve gas pressure. And then it has Radian's trigger. Now the trigger in this rifle is absolutely fantastic. How it feels is just like what you would expect from like a high-end Geisley trigger, except it's almost like a cassette style. So it's a little bit different in that respect, but just how it feels is, it obviously has a really nice audible reset if you're looking for that. But in addition to that, it's just, whew, thing of beauty. I mean, that trigger's probably like 3 pounds. So for myself, I think that that's perfect. I said that this thing has a 3-prong keymo flash hider on here. Now you'll see for myself, what I have on here is actually going to be a Dead Air Sierra 5. There was some, you know, bad talk that came out about the Sierra 5 when they came out, and I scooped one up because I wanted to try it, and I've been a huge fan of it so far. I think it's a really well done can that has good sound suppression while also not having a ton of back pressure and actually doing a good job in how it fits on the rifle. Of course, the keymo system and how it works is very nice in general. Now the handguard on here itself actually attaches to the upper receiver. So you can buy this receiver set if you're ever interested in this from Radian, but the receiver itself, the handguard actually attaches up here in the front with 4 Torx screws or bits on there, and it's really, really solid. This rifle itself is one of the tightest, actually it's the tightest fitted AR I have ever held. There is not one bit of wobble outside of this Magpul buttstock in the back. No receiver set wobble or anything like that. And what's even more impressive, most ARs have a receiver tensioning screw in the bottom of them. You have to look for it and they'll have it. It's pretty rare to not have that. This rifle does not have that. It's just, there is no wobble. It's a matched receiver set, meaning it's milled or machined all as one piece, and then they basically cut it apart, and it's done very well. Now across the top, you have an uninterrupted Picatinny rail with no gaps. Now sometimes what you'll see too with your receiver fit from the front of your receiver to the handguard itself, as you'll see there's usually a chunk of pick rail right there. So because they basically are mating two surfaces together. On this rifle though, there is no chunk. It's just completely uninterrupted. All the way across the top, has lightning cuts in the center as you go through. Now this gun, when I say lightning cuts, it needs them because she's hefty. This is a 7-pound rifle with nothing on it, so it's a little bit heavy. I'll tell you the reason it's heavy is because it has a heavy barrel on it. It has a heavy barreled stainless barrel. This is a 223 Wild, 14.5-inch pinned welded barrel. Really well done. It seems to be very accurate from what I've shot. I've shot this rifle quite a bit, and I have shot it suppressed 100% of the time so far. But it has M-lock at 3, 6, and 9 o'clock positions, and then lightning cuts there. What I'll notice too, or when I've shot this thing quite a bit, just run a mag through it, it doesn't get super hot. And the reason I think it doesn't get super hot is because one, the handguard is the thicker like aluminum on here, and then the barrel is obviously heavier barrel. So therefore the heat dissipation, things like that, is a lot better than what you might find from a real thin wall barrel or some of the other options. Now, of course, a lot of folks, you know, we're gonna sit here, we're gonna have the back and forth argument over cold hammer forge versus, you know, a stainless barrel. Personal preference. It's not a, you know, we're not going into combat here. For me, I would use this thing as a duty rifle without a question. I think it's an absolutely fantastic rifle from what I've seen so far out of this gun. I've shot probably about 500 rounds through it so far, and it is one of the flattest shooting guns with no muzzle brake on it, and it's extremely well gassed. In fact, you know, earlier in the year, you probably saw our Sons of Liberty Gunworks, you know, review of that rifle. And what I'll tell you, I thought that rifle was good until I shot this. And this rifle, although almost twice as much as that rifle, it is easily worth every single penny that makes it better than that Sons of Liberty Gunworks rifle. I would tell you that this rifle is not even in the same conversation. It's that much better. Now, getting back at the lower receiver, because that's truly what makes the Radian Mod 1 different from everybody else. If you're familiar with ADM, they have a lever here on this side. Now with the lever, with the ADM, you flick it down, you flick it up to lock the bolt. What's different, and completely different, with the ADAC lower here, so here's a magazine. You do get a Gen 3 windowed PMag with the rifle when you buy it. What's with that one, so let's say my magazine's in the gun. Okay, my bolt's obviously forward here. You release the magazine. To lock the bolt, it's the magazine release button. Some people are gonna ask, well, what if I need to lock the bolt back with the magazine in the gun? Why would you need to do that? If you're clear malfunctions, generally speaking, you have to strip your magazine. So that's very intuitive to do. And then on top of all that stuff, you see there's a very, very large button here. You notice how large that button is? I don't have to break a grip whatsoever from my firing position. Like off the safety, it's as simple as pushing the button. And it's a very large button and very easy to hit. Significantly easier than all of the other Ambi buttons I've seen. Like if you have a ping pong paddle like you see on the Daniel Defense or you see on the LWRC stuff, you have to actually break your grip a little bit to get that. This one, you don't have to do that. They just simply went out and did something different than the next person. They didn't just add like a ping pong paddle on both sides, magazine release, and nothing on this rifle is an afterthought. And of course, if you go over here on the wrong-handed shooter side of the gun, you have all the features that you need. You have obviously your magazine release and your bolt lock and all that type of stuff. It's all there. And then the safety on it obviously is a Radian 45-degree throw. Back here on the rear, you do have a QD socket on the rear of the gun, billet machined upper and lower. Like I said, all that stuff is fit really well. We'll shoot this thing, you'll get to see that. Back here on the rear though, you know, the stock, not my favorite. It's probably not what I would choose if I was putting that on there, but obviously that's what they have on here. This is the CTR, so you could actually lock it in place. It's solid, no issues with that. You know, it's a very usable stock. It's not my first choice. I happen to really like the B5 stuff or even some of the other newer Magpul stuff that's come out. Overall, good stuff though. You know, the fit and finish on the back here is fantastic. It is staked like you would expect or what some people would want, but then they also torque it and do apply Loctite. So really, really well done. Again, this rifle, as it sits, you know, you see obviously I have an HRT AWLS light on here. It has an ODA switch on the back, and then you'll see I also have a Vortex Razor 1-6 and a Reptilla. Why is this rifle set up like this? This is how I would like to set up a rifle if I was choosing a duty rifle with little to no restrictions. 14.5-inch gun, you get, you know, legality without having to get a tax stamp. I like LPVOs a little bit more than a red dot for myself. The Vortex Razor 1-6 works really well. And if I wanted to add an offset red dot with this Reptilla mount, I can easily do that. Overall, the weight on this gun, it's a little bit on the heavier side. Of course, adding a suppressor analyst does add up, but overall, it's very well balanced and it does feel great. So we've talked about this thing a lot. Guns can be as expensive as they want. If they don't perform or they don't offer you something different, they're not worth it. And again, like I said, this rifle at a price point that it comes in at is significantly more than 90% of the ARs out there in the market. This thing is definitely up there in the tier and price range of like a Knight's Armament and things like that. But a Knight's Armament, like an SR15, you know, say what you want, great rifle, no doubt proven track record. You know, HK 416, all that type of stuff, the MR 556, proven track records, blah, blah, blah. Great guns, no doubt about that. Nobody's ever gonna complain about that. One, you'll pay absorbent prices on the internet for those guns. You'll pay way over what they're actually worth. Great guns, but they are a mil-spec plus rifle. Both of them are mil-spec plus. This rifle has nothing to do with mil-spec. It's everything to do with a very well done gun that they went out of their way to make different than the other ARs on the market. And on top of all that stuff, some of the billet guns that we've seen, not gonna name any of them, but some of the billet ones that we've seen are not as immaculate when it comes to the machining and how well this gun is done. So when you buy this thing, although at a high price tag, you are buying a very premium AR-15. So let's go shoot it, see how it performs, and then you guys can certainly let me know in that comment section below what you think of the Radian Mod 1. We'll start this off by showing you guys one of the neatest features of the Radian Model 1. With the Radian Model 1, unlike a lot of other rifles that have like some kind of lever you have to flick up to lock the bolts to the rear, or push a paddle like you do on a RIS-3 from Daniel Defense or an LWRCI, with the Radian, it's as simple as pushing the magazine release button. So you push the magazine release button and lock the bolt to the rear. That's all you have to do. It's very, very simple. And of course, then over here, you see it has a bolt release, a large, nice paddle. But again, just like as if you're doing a reload, you can lock the bolts to the rear, which is really nice. Some folks may ask the question, what happens if I have a magazine in the gun? Well, why are you locking the bolts to the rear with a magazine in the gun? If you're stripping a malfunction or clear a malfunction, one of the first things you do is remove the magazine. So obviously you remove the magazine, you can lock it to the rear. So super simple there. The rifle itself, no zipper sound. You can tell it's very, very smooth. So let's get into shooting. This rifle has roughly 750 rounds through it, give or take a few, but it's in that 700 range, all suppressed. This is all I've shot this thing. It got very, very dirty. I ended up cleaning it. So we're gonna shoot it today, nice and clean. We'll start it off though, just shooting it unsuppressed so you can see it. And then I'm gonna throw my can on there. Again, that's gonna be a Dead Air Sierra 5. So as you'll notice from the ejection pattern, I can see it right away. It's a good 3 o'clock ejection pattern. The rifle's very soft, it does not come back, and it stays very flat. So real good ejections, not over gassed or anything like that. The rifle again is very soft. So obviously we shot it now unsuppressed. I'm about sick of that. Let's go into shooting it suppressed. All right, we got our suppressor on there now. Again, this is a Dead Air Sierra 5. It's about a 5-inch suppressor. I found that it is a very nice sounding can, as well as it's not a ton of back pressure. So with this thing though, again, super simple, very, very nice system. We didn't catch all of them because of the suppressor, obviously, but overall, very, very soft shooting with a can on it. The rifle, this rifle, if anything, I think it shoots a little better and more like controlled suppressed, which is strange to say because a lot of times you throw a suppressor on a rifle and it really starts to mess with it. This thing, if anything, I think it feels like it shoots flatter with it. This is a Lancer mag, Gen 3 P mag, Gen 2 P mag, and this is a Lancer. Gas-wise, you know, I'll be probably the first one to tell you. Maybe nobody else wants to say it. I don't think the Radian SD charging handle, so basically the suppressor type one, really does anything. I haven't noticed a difference shooting the one in this versus not having it. And overall, it doesn't really feel like it does. Like, you do get some gas, of course, as to be expected, especially when it's not a flow-through type. But overall, the rifle shoots very, very nice. So malfunction there, looked like a failure to extract. At times, I can attribute that actually to the Lancer mags. I've had some issues with them on certain rifles, especially newer ones. On older guns, I had no issues. On like my Mitchell defense rifle, which is 100% reliable through a Lancer mag in there, and that thing is not 100% reliable. So it's a little bit unfortunate in that respect, but we'll continue to shoot this thing and we'll see. Control-wise, the rifle is very, very easy to control. It shoots really well. It's soft. It's, to be fair, it's everything you would expect from a rifle that costs, you know, $3,000. It's a super expensive gun. It feels like it's built like that, you know, and something to really take note of is, again, these are not high production. These are one gunsmith, one rifle. They build the entire thing from start to finish, ensure quality, they sign off on it and all that type of stuff. Nobody else is really doing that as far as for ARs go, especially even when you get to that price range, they're still really not doing that. Radian obviously is, and that's something to really take note of. You know, you see that from like something like Nighthawk. They do that, and you know, is this a Nighthawk? Well, no. I mean, it's not a custom tuned, you know, custom hand fitted 1911. It's far different than that, but who's doing it and the time they're taking to put this rifle together, it definitely shows because of how tight the gun is and how well fit it is. You know, the trigger in here, to tell you like how it feels. Let's see, if you're familiar with the Geisley G2S, Geisley SSA, I mean, very similar to those. I would say it's lighter. So this is more like a straight 2. So, like I said, Lancer mag. So 2 more here. When the gun goes empty, I'm gonna transition to a pistol. This is a Fusion XP Pro. A really, really nice feeling gun. Even what's kind of different too, what I'll tell you is, if you're real familiar with how the AR feels when it goes empty, basically empty mag, empty gun, nothing in the chamber most likely, on a bolt lock reload. A lot of times you'll feel like a real kind of like a heavy dead feeling in the rifle. It's the best way I can describe it. You don't really feel that with this gun. It feels a little bit different. And the reason I think that is because of how smooth the system feels. You can definitely tell it's empty, but not like that straight, like just the bolt goes to the rear and it's just like almost like a heavy chunk, like you know it's empty. This gun, it's a little bit smoother than that. And it's a different kind of feeling. Overall, your recoil impulse and all that is very, very easy. So I got a few more mags loaded up, keep shooting today. And obviously it's running just fine, no issues outside of ones that I definitely think are attributed to that Lancer mag. So I pushed back just a touch to 50 yards now. I have a small gongs and then some of our silhouettes, and we're gonna shoot just a touch. Obviously you see I'm using a Gen 1 Razor. This is a 1:6 with the MOA reticle because I'm an adult and I don't like mil. I'm never gonna. Let's not go down that rabbit hole. But I'm gonna shoot these gongs and then we'll go over here and shoot some of this steel as well. See, this is where you really start to see the difference in a higher end rifle versus other ones. So here it's very simple to hit, like that's a 12-inch gong, shouldn't be hard in the first place, but it's very simple to do, and like follow-up shots aren't bad because of how well the rifle cycles and stays very flat while you do it. All right. We're gonna do 2 shots on the steel from the low ready. Overall though, the gun is very, very nice to shoot, you know, like to be able to pull up on the gun and get hits, you know, when they would register at sub 1 second or second and a half at 40 to 45 yards on C-zone steel. It was really nice to see. The rifle shoots really well. I don't have any complaints. It's probably the nicest AR platform rifle I have shot, and I've shot a lot of them. I just think it's a little bit different. I think that what truly sets this thing apart is just how the Ambi features of the gun work itself. So, you know, the fact that you can bolt lock using the magazine release is nice. And of course, you know, on the left side, if you're a wrong-handed shooter, it's probably perfect for you. But the fact that, like I said, to bolt release on this side, I'm not breaking a grip. Really, my grip never has to change to do anything. Even like on a malfunction, when they happen, because they happen on all ARs, nobody shoots, you know, 4,000 rounds or 1,000 rounds, you don't have anything. It's extremely rare. If it happens, great, but they happen. It doesn't, you know, my Mitchell Defense, Daniel Defense, BCM, whatever it might be, I've seen it, I've had it happen, it's gonna happen. And sometimes, unfortunate with ARs, if it's magazine related or ammo related, my son's Liberty Gunworks had them in a night vision class. So, like, they happen on occasion. They're not gonna be 100% reliable 100% of the time, because sometimes the weakest link to any gun are these darn things. But overall, the rifle itself is a phenomenal shooting gun that I highly recommend. There is a very significant lead time to get these. It took us a while to get this one ourselves. Of course, you know, I probably can't thank Radian enough for helping us out to get this thing in for review, because it is a sweet rifle. It's very different than a lot of the other ones on the market, and how it's set up and how the lower itself is Ambi. Like I said, they don't just add a ping pong paddle on both sides and call it a day to make it an Ambi gun. They did something a little different. It's heavy. This is a 14.5-inch gun, and for me, it's a heavy rifle. I really feel it. You know, I don't want to sound like, you know, I feel fatigued when I shoot it, but I can tell the difference in the overall weight of this gun being heavy. Now, granted, everybody knows the Gen 1 Razors like this are heavier, light. You know, I'm not helping this thing out, doing any favors, but overall, the rifle without this stuff, it is heavy. It's like 7.1 pounds. My Mitchell Defense SOIDC with that carbon barrel is like 5.9, so it's quite a bit less. The standard one's 6. The Sons of Liberty Gunworks we have was 6.5. So those poundage and weight, that does add up. If you're somebody who maybe works in a rural community, but you have a lot of active SWAT call-outs or whatever it might be, this thing might be a little heavy for you. Now, if you could get like that 10.5-inch, I think it'd be ideal for that. I think it'd be a phenomenal rifle. I think this is a great patrol rifle, or it could be a great duty rifle for a police officer. I don't have any complaints. I think it's a phenomenal rifle. I think it's worth every single penny to the right person. And that's something you're gonna hear me stress a lot in our videos. Some rifles cost a lot, some handguns cost a lot, whatever it might be, shotguns, they're gonna cost a lot. They're not for everybody. For the casual AR user who shoots 500 rounds a year, this thing is a complete and total waste of your money, if I'm being honest. For a serious end user who shoots a lot, worth every single penny. You know, sometimes you can't put a price tag on your life. I trust my life to this rifle. I think it's a great overall rifle. If you guys disagree, you got questions about it, let us know in the comment section below. Drop us a like, whatever it might be, help us out. Let us know what you want to see in a future video, but especially let us know what you think of the Radian Model 1.